In 2009, on the Something Awful forum, Eric Knudsen, under the pen name Victor Surge, posted these two pictures of children playing with a man in the background. Sometime later, he added the quotation, "We didn't want to go. We didn't want to kill them, but its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time." 1983, photographer unknown, presumed dead. This gave birth to the entity now known as Slender Man. This eerie humanoid creature is faceless, donning a long, dark suit and inhumanly tall. He has powers like invisibility and even psychic abilities. His victims, usually children, are abducted, killed, manipulated to harm themselves and others, or driven to madness. This modern urban legend seemed to ring true when in 2014, two 12-year-old girls, Anissa Weyer and Morgan Geyser, stabbed their best friend Peyton Leutner 19 times with a steak knife.
I didn't want to do this. I was afraid of what would happen if I...
So did you guys talk about doing this beforehand?
Anisha told me we had to.
Why?
Because she said that he'd kill our families.
Who's he?
A man. I didn't know him, but Anissa knew him.
Site called the Creepypasta Wiki.
Okay.
It's full of horror stories that are meant to purposely scare you. And there's one of them called Slenderman.
Who's Slender Man?
He's this tall, faceless man who preys on children.
At his own will, he can exploit these tendrils from his back and strangle his victim.
They were convinced that Slender Man will hurt them if they did not, and by murdering their friend, they will be worthy enough to meet him. This incident was unfortunately not isolated. In September of 2014, a 16-year-old girl from Port Richey, Florida, had set her house on fire. It seems she'd been researching and repeatedly visiting websites about Slender Man, leading the county sheriff to believe there was a link. In June 2014, a mother was attacked by her 13-year-old daughter with a knife. The attacker was wearing a white mask and confessed she wanted to please Slender Man. In 2015, a suicide spirit called the Tall Man encouraged youths to take their own lives. 103 suicide attempts were attributed to the entity, and 9 teenagers had died. That's almost double the rate for the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in youths and adult suicides the year before. How did this Photoshop monster become such an influence? Following Knudsen's 2009 photos, the monster was picked up by authors on Creepypasta, a forum to share scary stories where encounters with the Slender Man developed more details about him. This was followed by pictures and documentary-style sightings of Slender Man attacks spreading online. The mythos around Slender Man grew with each new production. The 2009 to 2014 YouTube series Marble Hornets gave Slender Man, known as the Operator, a symbol. The fandom was maximized by creators of video games like Slender the Arrival, Slender 8 Pages, and more. And finally, the 2018 horror film Slender Man was released. Through this mania came the question, could Slender Man be real? Did Knudsen actually discover a monster that has existed through history? A creature called the Grossman, translating to the Tall Man or Big Man, haunted the Black Forest in Germany, and his legend dates back to 16th to 18th century. Like the modern Slender Man, he was a tall, tentacled creature that stalked the forest and took away children who entered the woods. Wood cuttings of this creature, as pictured below, dated back to 16th century Germany. Other evidence of Grossman were found in a 1702 diary entry translated. And a poem about Schlankwald, a mythical monster believed to be the Slender Man who hunts children that enter his forest, was also discovered. The suicide spirit, Tall Man, from the Native American legends that plagued Pine Ridge Indian Reservation was believed to be more historical evidence of Slender Man. Then, there was the discovery of cave paintings dating back to 900 BC at Serra da Capivara National Park in Brazil. The thing is that all this evidence was proved to be fabricated. The wood cuttings were from the book Dance Macabre. The diary entry cannot be traced back to anyone at that time, leading us to believe that it was most likely written in German and translated recently to add to the mythos. The same is true with the poem. The cave paintings? Well, I'll let you compare those with the real cave paintings found in Bulgaria. The sightings and stories were also most likely only made for entertainment. So, why did this have such profound effect on the minds of the youth attackers and victims? A made-up monster that came to life in the mind. Though it's true that most of the attacks linked to Slenderman had many other explanations behind them, like pre-existing mental conditions, violent tendencies, and as with the reservation suicides, poor living conditions and exposure to violence, the entity playing a part in encouraging this youth's behavior is undeniable. So why did so many people create content based off him? My theory is that Slenderman was taken up by so many amateur and professional creators because of his lack of backstory, allowing anyone to create and add to the legend. They were able to play a part in his story, which many people at the time were obsessed with, elevating him to a modern urban legend. As for the violence he supposedly ignited, he was a figure to blame, something that will rationalize the actions these youths wanted to take. For the adults who were apprehensive about the freedom the internet allowed their children, he became the embodiment of the dark side of the web. Now, the fandom is slowly dying, buried by new fandoms and creepypasta obsessions. Still, Slender Man remains a remarkable phenomenon of its decade.